slant's intercepted by Lewis Jones of the Huskies. They run the slant pattern, and Hoy puffs up the interception. Washington's got it. Washington's got it. Number one, Lewis Jones.
Two, heck you wanna.
You are about to enter the lounge, the Sports Lounge, with your host, Big Lou, and me, Big Lou's homie, Tony Kelly. You ready for the lounge? Welcome to the Sports Lounge with Big Lou. Born in Venice, California, the son of a preacher man. He went to the University of Washington football team starting as a strong safety and outside linebacker. Big Lou has taken home 3 Pac-10 titles and 2 Rose Bowl wins. He had an undefeated season and a national championship in 1991. He's the CEO of Holy Fit 310. Trainer to the California Hollywood elite. And now, please give it up for your host, Big Lou.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's such an exciting day today. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. I am your host, Big Lou. This is the Sports Lounge right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM, Santa Barbara News Press Radio. Man, you guys, we're going to jump right into it. We don't have a lot of time to go over other things because the guest in the lounge today he's the pinnacle of making calls and making judgments, and what he says goes. I'm not going to give it to you just yet. I just want to go over some quick sports real quick. So we're going to jump to it right now with that new section.
And now, with Big Lou's Sports Lounge, chaos on the court.
Listen, guys, yesterday we didn't have much NBA, but we did have that beautiful All-Star game. And man, it was exciting. It was fun to watch. And I have to say, I'm a huge fan of the new format of the All-Star game. I really like the way it went. And just as luck would have it, being back in Cleveland, LeBron's team that he drafted and chose, not only did they pull out the win, but of course, Cleveland's own son, LeBron, hits the game-winning bucket to win the extra, I believe it was $150,000 to go towards the charity of his choice. And it was an exciting game to watch. In that exact same game, Steph Curry, business as usual, 16 three-pointers. I mean, the guy is just, he's literally running around with ice in his veins. In my opinion, if there was a basketball court on a football field, he would actually be shooting field goals from 50 yards and further away. That's just how much range that guy has. But I hope you all got a chance to watch the game. It was an exciting game nonetheless. And going on to some local sports in Santa Barbara, the UCSB men's basketball team, right now, overall, they are 12-10, 4-5 in conference, and it looks like they are 3-7 away. Actually, let me scratch that. Let's make that 9-3 at home, 3-7 away. That sounds a bit better right there. And then we're going to move on to, as well, men's volleyball at UCSB. And they are not doing bad themselves either as well. They are, I believe it's 9-4 right now, very competitive. They're on a hot streak right now with 1 loss in the month of February. So if you do have a chance to get out and root for UCSB, please do that. That volleyball team over there is very competitive. Listen, I'm going to jump right into it right now, guys. There's no need to hold back and wait anymore. The guest in the lounge today, he'll be right back. I see him over there with the bartender getting his virgin daiquiri done. At least that's the way it looks. I can neither confirm nor deny what may or may not be in that daiquiri. That said, let's just get right to it. My guest today, former American football official and later Vice President of Officiating for the National Football League. He is currently head of officiating for the USFL, that's the United States Football League. Since 2010, he has served as a rules analyst for Fox Sports, for which he has gained the nickname Mikey Rulebooks. We'll get back to that in a second. Before the NFL, he spent 14 years officiating college football games with 9 years in the Big West Conference, followed by 5 more years in the WAC, that's the Western Athletic Conference, then moved up to the NFL for 2 seasons, as a side judge on the officiating crew that was headed by Mike Carey. And it's pretty obvious, guys. I want to jump right into it. I'm going to introduce him right now. We are so fortunate and lucky to have in the lounge with us today Mr. Mike Pereira, VP of Officiating for the NFL and all things that are good. If he says it is, it is. Mike, thank you for joining us today. So happy to have you in the lounge.
Big Lou, come on, man. It is great to be with you. I'm kind of wondering in your heyday at UW, man. I mean, what do you think of those Pac-12 officials? I mean, you must have loved them, right? I mean, I'm trying that. That's when I was on the field, Big Lou, and I don't think I had one of your games, but if I did, I probably flagged your butt, as a matter of fact.
You know what? Now, you know what? I'm going to say this, Mike, and this is not a shot against my ex-teammate Jamal Fontaine, but maybe it was you that threw the flag. And I'm going to say this: I had one pick six in my college career. It was at Arizona State. Jake Plummer was the starting quarterback, and I intercepted his pass. I ran it back to the house for about a 48-yard pick six. But the play doesn't exist because there was a roughing the passer penalty called. So the play got taken away. So I'm assuming that had there been you on the field that threw that flag.
Yeah, I issued my apology well after the fact. I'm sorry. I mean, kept you out of the books, man. Kept you out of the record books.
That's okay. You know what? The great thing about film is tape don't lie. So I do actually have the film. And if anyone dares to challenge it or question it, I'm happy to forward the copy to you. Listen, guys, we have so many people in the lounge today. We got Big Lou's homie Tony Kelly is on the line with us as well, my co-host. And I want to just jump right into it, Mike, if we can. And I want to ask you this way. If you recall, I'm certain you do, because you're just an expert at what you have done and continue to do. That said, if you recall in the 2010 season in week 1, you had predicted that the referee Gene Steratore would rule what appeared to be a game-winning touchdown catch by Calvin Johnson, right? And it was incomplete. That was it. I guess you would say was that the first big call that you had that you were a little bit concerned about making that call?
Big Lou, that was the first time I went on television. I mean, it was the first time. I mean, Fox at that point didn't even know how they were going to use me. I mean, they thought I was going to be an internet presence, that I would like quote rules online and do that kind of stuff. But then, you know, sometime before the start of the season, they said, let's put them in a studio just in case something happens in a game. And so I'm like in this studio, this revamped little room, and I'm available if the announcers want me, but they didn't really want me. I mean, they hate to give up their airtime, period. And so this play happens, and you know, it's ruled on the field. One official signals touchdown, the other one signals incomplete. They go with incomplete. It goes to replay. Everybody thinks it's a catch. Everybody thinks Detroit's going to win. But it goes to review, and now the two announcers, Tom Brenneman and Brian Billick, bring me in. And so it's like I'm sweating bullets because, I mean, I haven't done this before. And so they start saying, you know, well, what do you think? And I'm going like, I don't know. It was one of those plays that looked like a touchdown. I mean, if you judge it by 50 drunks in a bar, 50 drunks in a bar thought it was But they're asking me, what do I think? And I'm the one that put the damn rule in before I left the NFL. And I said, well, if he's going to the ground, he's got to hold on to the ball when he hits the ground. And then they would go, well, yeah, but look at, he took 3 steps and then turned over and then put the ball on the ground and then it came out. And do you really think that that's going to be incomplete? And I go, well, I mean, I'm just hedging my bet. Well, the rule says, I didn't want to say because I really wasn't sure.
Sure.
And so I finally, finally, Brian Billick said to me, he said, okay, enough. What are they going to do? And now I was dead. I mean, so I said, based on the rule, they're going to leave it incomplete. And he went, no way. He screamed like, no way. And and now I'm just like, I've soiled my pants. I mean, I'm going to get fired, you know, after my first game. And Gene Steratore comes out from under the hood and says, after reviewing the play, the ruling on the field of incomplete pass stands. Well, I almost fainted. I mean, and since I got it right, and Jay Glazer came running in the room, said, "You hit a grand slam on your first time. You hit a grand slam. This is unbelievable." And so now I'm like sweating. And then when the day is over, the NFL actually called me and said, "This is the greatest. This role is the greatest ever. You took the heat off the officials and put it on the rule. This is great. The commissioner loved it." The next week, I disagreed on air with a pass interference call that they made, and then they called and told me they hated me. And so it was the worst thing for officiating. But yeah, I was, you know, I look at two plays that, interestingly enough, both were first years for me. I look at that, which was my first year on Fox. Yes. And then the first year that I became VP of officiating, the damn Raiders were playing in New England.
Oh, boy.
They had this play at the end of the game in the snow.
Oh, boy.
And Big Lou, I have to tell you, I like football in the snow. It just, there's something pristine about it. And
Absolutely.
So I am watching, I'm watching the game in St. Louis. It's a playoff game, right? And I'm watching it and it's beautiful. And I had just a fantastic bottle of red wine in my room. And so I'm just drinking the wine, watching this game. I'm two-thirds of the bottle, two-thirds of the way through the bottle. The tuck play happens, and I know what's going to happen. I know they're going to reverse it to an incomplete pass, and I'm pretty drunk, which is not good. And I know my bosses are going to call me and say, "What the hell happened?" You know, and that was my first year that I had that. So a lot of first year craziness.
That's amazing. You know, it's funny. They were doing the 30 for 30 just recently on ESPN with Tom Brady and Woodson in reference to that play. And those two are talking about it and they're rehashing that play. And it's funny. It seems like, you know, I don't want to give it away if people haven't had an opportunity to see it yet, but Tom Brady does come clean about some things. I'm not going to say exactly what, or if he was just saying that to add a little bit more spice to the show. But he relatively inadvertently, I guess you could say, he admitted that, you know, he had fumbled that ball. But, you know, here we are, however many years removed from that play. And now we don't even know if Tom is actually going to come back. But, you know, there's an old saying, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Yeah. How about this, though? How about Fox? And what did they do just recently? They hired Charles Woodson. I said, Jesus, I'm leaving. I'm getting out of it. He hasn't forgot about it. It was a long time ago, 2001, but nah, he like chases me around the studio every weekend.
You know, real quick, let me ask you, Mike, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners want to know as well, and it'll be a great question to ask. How difficult is it to make a call live right there when it's happening? And I want to kind of lay the foundation for our listeners as well. You know, if you've never seen these athletes in an NFL game play, the amount of speed that all of these guys move with, being able to make a call on the spot right there, you know, I can say just from playing the game, it's extremely difficult, especially with that amount of pressure that referees have on them, obviously being on TV, getting singled out, getting zoomed in on, and obviously the crowd, being it's a home crowd or an away crowd for that matter. I want you to go ahead and answer for us and at least let us know how difficult and how much stress it is to make that call in the heat of the moment. But I want you to give us that answer when we come right back. Guys, we do have to take our first quick break. You know, I say it every week. It's kind of how we pay the bills around here. Otherwise, we'd be doing the show in the dark. But we're going to take a quick break. Right now, we have our special guest. Everything NFL, if he says it, it's true. Mike Pereira, VP of Officiating, head official of the USFL. You're listening to Big Lou right here on the Sports Lounge on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. It's me, your host, Big Lou, right here on AM 1290 KZSB, Santa Barbara News Press Radio, and 96.9 FM. my guest in the lounge today, my super special guest, if you will. I do not want to sell him short because I don't want to get flagged. Head of officiating in the NFL, has been the rules analyst for Fox Sports for over a decade, and is known by many around the league as Mikey Rule Books, because we know that whatever he says goes. Yeah, you're not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike Pereira. Everything that's anything in terms of the rules in the NFL, and we got him in the lounge today. And I want to get right into this, Mike, real quick. Let's go back to the initial question that we asked right before we went to break, in terms of the difficulty of making a call live in the field with these incredible athletes that we have in the NFL. What can you compare that to? What's that like, being out there at the speed of that game and being able to make a call? And how confident are we in those calls at times?
I don't even think I can compare it to anything, because essentially you have 1/64th of a second to make an impression in your brain. I mean, and that's unbelievable when you think of sideline catches and the toe taps and those types of things. You often, Big Lou, you often don't see what you call, but you feel. It's an instinct. I mean, you're doing it so long. Most of the time before you get in the NFL, you've been officiating for at least 20 years. And so it becomes an instinct. And we all are great slow motion referees. We wait for the TV replays to see the call. And then when something is missed, then it's like, how could they possibly miss that? But I have to tell you, I don't think it's the stress. I don't think you work under stress. I just think it's the difficulty. And how confident are we? I mean, look at every single solitary game, including the Super Bowl that we just had. You can find mistakes. Mistakes are made. But in reality, and this is reality, each play that's run, there's at least 10 different decisions that have to be made, whether it's the interior lineman, is there a hold on any one of the guards, the tackle, the center? When you talk about defenders, illegal contact, defensive holding, motions, formation, there's 10 different decisions at minimum that have to be made, and 150 plays, that's 1,500 decisions a game. And they are right 99% of the time, which is amazing. But people expect perfection from the humans that officiate this tough game, and you're just not going to get it even with replay. But their success rate is phenomenal, but their reputation is not, only because it's a negative aspect of the game. And it's too bad, because the game can't be played without officials, and the number of people signing up to officiate games, even at the youth level, I mean, it's declining. Nobody's putting up with the sportsmanship issues that are out there and what is said about them. But they are good. They are good, and they are held accountable. And it's obviously a key part of the game.
Man, that's, let me say thank you for that interpretation of that, because there's always, we have our referees on the field, we have our high-end expert analysts, yourself, Dean Blandino, in New York, who we refer back to when there's questionable things happening on the field. And then we have all the high-paid referees. I'm talking about all the spectators and the fans that seem to have a better opinion and a better viewpoint than the referees, and they seem to know better than all you guys who are the professionals. So thank you for clearing that up for us. And real quick, you touched on something, and I want to go back to something. We talked about that catch, the first call that you made with Calvin Johnson in the 2010 game. And then I want to use it as a segue going into this past Super Bowl that we just watched with the Bengals and the Rams. And there were a lot of calls there wasn't a lot of calls, I'll say it this way, until towards the end of the game. And then, we had that one, I'm going to make air quotes here, questionable no call with the potential face mask on Jalen Ramsey on the first play of the third quarter that went for a touchdown. In your opinion, and this is after the fact now, was that an actual face mask, or could it have been called as a face mask? And I'm saying it that way because me being a defensive player, I'm going to say it was no face mask. Your 2 cents.
It was a face mask. And not only was it face mask, it was offensive pass interference. So it should have been called, which then would have obviously taken away the touchdown. And then it goes to the latter part of the game where the defensive hold was called against the Bengals in that situation on the 3rd and goal situation, which just isn't a foul. I mean, yes, there's contact, but there's no restriction. There's hands, on Cooper Kupp, but not enough to take him out of the play. And that's an example, Big Lou. That's an example of the couple calls that get all, and their mistakes. And of course they get all the notoriety. And yes, there were calls at the end of the game, including the offsetting fouls on the whole offensive hold and the hit on the defenseless player.
Right.
But when you look at playoffs, there just weren't a lot of fouls called, period, all the way through the playoffs, with the exception of the I think it was the Cowboys and the 49ers, or whichever game that was. But it's a tough game to officiate, just super tough.
And I can imagine. I mean, just being from a player perspective, as fast as things are going, and you guys' positions, it's almost like basketball, if you will. When one ref moves another way, we have to shift over so we can make sure we get the right angle. So you guys have to. There's a level of conditioning and fitness that our referees need to have as well, to run around and put themselves in the proper position to get the right line of sight to make the proper call. I want to ask you one more. Actually, no, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, my homie, Tony Kelly. I know Tony's got a couple questions for you as well, Big Mike, but we're going to come back after the break. We have that time again, guys. It's Big Lou, the host of the Sports Lounge, right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM. We're talking to Mike Pereira, everything NFL officiating. Don't change the dial, just turn the volume up. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's me, Big Lou, your host right here of the Sports Lounge on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM, Santa Barbara News Press Radio. In case you missed it, if you're just tuning in the lounge, we have a super special guest today, Mike Pereira, everything NFL officiating. Whatever he says goes. Nickname Mikey Rule Books. You can only get that name if you know everything that's happening in the arena that you are involved with, and that is Mr. Mike Pereira. I want to jump back in, Mike. I'm going to pass the mic over to Justin Platt. Justin has a couple questions that he'd like to propose to you, and I'm sure they're going to be some pretty intriguing questions. Go ahead, Justin. You got the mic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you again, Mr. Pereira, for being here.
Don't call me Mr. Pereira, please.
I'm sorry. It's a force of habit. It's a force of habit.
I feel like
Mikey Rule Books, man.
At least you're getting respect, Mike.
that is true.
Like I said, I mean, look, I got to pay respect to the king. You might not be Derrick Henry, but you're pretty dang close. I got to ask, we talked about how difficult it is to be a referee in any type of league. But then you're now cast into the national spotlight at the head of the forefront of officiating. How do you handle any backlash that you might get?
It just depends who the backlash comes from.
Bill Belichick.
I mean, I don't get that much backlash from the officials themselves because they know I've done it and they know that I know how difficult it is to do. And so, I mean, they will accept my criticism. They have a hard time accepting criticism from somebody that hasn't done it before and doesn't even know the rules, but is quick to, in the media to jump in and criticize. So that backlash to me is not bothersome at all. Now, the social media one is tougher. I mean, the social media thing, I mean, I'm old school. I call it anti-social media, yet I do some Twitter and some Instagram, but some of the stuff that comes out on social media directed at me, everybody tells you not to take it personally, but when you read it enough times, you start to. And I remember one time, Justin, when after the tuck play game that we're talking about, this is like after the fact, Sacramento Bee, where I live in Sacramento, they wrote an article about me being from here and my wife still living in here. And I got a really serious email or a tweet that came from a guy that said, now that we know where your wife lives, you better tell her to look over her shoulder every time she walks out of her house. And that one unnerved me a little bit, and did cause an investigation. And it was some schmuck from Los Angeles who was stuck in his parents' basement and couldn't even find his way out of the basement. But still, that part of that part of the backlash is kind of tough to take. But you also realize that it's a very small number. It's a real small number, that most of the people that listen to you do respect what you have to say. And you will always, no matter who it is, if it's Big Lou, if it's me, if it's anybody that's doing anything like this, you're going to piss off somebody at some point in time. And while it used to be tough to get to somebody to criticism, now it's pretty easy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that, like we said, it's tough to be a rep, and you have to have a lot of guts to be able to do that. And especially, we're all about spreading positivity here because there's so much negativity. And, that's why we love sports, is because something like football brings people together and hopefully brings out the best in all of us. I got one more quick question before I hand it back over to Big Lou. Obviously, it seems like you know everything about the rules of the game itself, but do you, how much of the actual ins and outs of football do you know? Reading coverages, assigning linebackers, understanding, I'm basically asking, could you play quarterback in the NFL?
Well, I think people probably don't realize it. It is kind of funny. Here I officiated and I ended up getting to the top of the ladder in officiating in the NFL. I was the head of officiating in the NFL, and now I'm the rules analyst for Fox Sports, and for either college football or NFL football. And I never played a down of football in my life. When I went to high school, when I went out for the team, I was like 135 pounds. And the first couple of days of practice my sophomore year, we ran these drills, but then they put the pads on, and some guy in the first day hit me on the hip with the helmet. And that was it. The next day I was shooting free throws in the gym. I said, this game's not for me. So I don't focus as much on technique as I do on advantage, disadvantage. And that, from the officiating standpoint, is where you have to focus on. Cover two, it means a lot to a lot of people, but for me, it's just a scheme. And so it doesn't have that great of effect. And if I played quarterback right now, about the only thing I could do probably is yell, Omaha! That's the only thing that would make me sound like I knew what I was doing, because beyond that, I probably wouldn't.
Well, if I may jump in, I tell you, Big Mike, if you were playing quarterback and you saw cover two look, my recommendation to you is you want to throw it over the corner and under the safety. We're looking for them double breaking routes, going to the corners, going to the sidelines. Keep yourself safe.
And all I care is that those corners don't grab when the receiver's going by. That's all I care about.
Well, you know what the rule is. If you get beat bad, tackle them and get the penalty called, and we'll just line back up and take the 15 yards as opposed to the 85 or the 70 that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the 49ers allowed Cooper Kupp to knock them out with. Jumping up, Mike, let me ask you this. What was one of your favorite games in your career to officiate?
What my favorite in any sport?
I'll take any sport. Any sport.
I have to say high school basketball.
Really?
I have to tell you, basketball is so damn tough. You're going up and down the court constantly. There's so much contact that you have to either call or let go. And then the toughest, I think back of the toughest games, and they were girls' high school basketball games in Central California, because there was really nobody in the stands except for the parents. And my God, if their daughter got touched, they would just scream in the gym at you, bloody murder. But basketball was unbelievable. When you go to football, college football, I have to tell you, Big Lou, I love college football. It's just the passion that's in college football, the student participation and the way the game is played. I loved officiating college football because it was like a a real spectacle, which everybody was involved. NFL kind of gets a little bit toward entertainment and beyond a little bit of the passion of the game. So college football, San Diego State at the University of Hawaii, Marshall Faulk putting up 237 in the first half. And I'm the line judge of the game, and I'm supposed to be watching for offside, and I'm watching Marshall Faulk run through the Hawaii Rainbow defense. That particular game to me was just so exciting because I saw this superlative athlete just perform. It was incredible.
That, you know what, that's amazing. And it's guys like Marshall Faulk and obviously the Bo Jacksons, the Tom Brady's for that matter, the Peyton Mannings, that you have had the pleasure of not only working those games, but seeing them do what they do live right in front of you. I just couldn't imagine, you know, a lot of these guys, I had the fortunate luxury of either playing with or against during my college time. And watching these guys go through the NFL, you know, having that maturation process, getting better on all fronts of the game, the student mentality of the game, the physicality of the game. And, you know, something that a lot of our pro athletes do is being able to make adjustments on the fly in game. And it's got to be an amazing thing to watch that live while you're there. And it's got to be even more difficult to stay focused on your task of refereeing the game and not getting caught up in that moment when a Marshall Faulk goes out and does what he does, or a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady. Listen, guys, we're going to have some fun with Mike Pereira, everything official and NFL, USFL, rules analyst for Fox Sports. We got to take a quick break, but I want to come back with a couple quick questions for Mike. First question would be, and we'll answer these when we come back from the break. Mike, in your opinion, who would you take in an arm wrestling match? Ed Hockley or Mike Carey, number one. Number two, in the NFL's efforts to keep the game safe, clean, and efficient, what tweaks, rule changes, or new rules could we expect in the new season coming up in the 2022 season? And last but not least, I've asked a couple people this question. I'm very curious to hear your answer since you've seen it in person. In a 40-yard dash, you got 50 grand, you got to bet it all. Who do you take in their prime? Tom Brady or Peyton Manning? Guys, you're listening to Big Lou, the host of the Sports Lounge, right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM. We will be right back with Mike Pereira's answers to those questions. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's me once again, Big Lou, the host of the Sports Lounge right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM, Santa Barbara News Press Radio. In the lounge, we've been having a good time hanging out with Mike Pereira, Fox Sports rules analyst for the NFL, VP of NFL officials, head official now with the USFL. It's everything rules. Like if you have any rules or you need to make some rules or create some rules, reach out to Mike Pereira because he's the guy that you want to talk to. He knows all. He's kind of like the magic 8-ball of the NFL, if you will. If they have any questions, they just shake him up and ask him a question and we'll always get the right answer. Real quick, guys, please make sure to check out the Jeremiah Show this week. The Jeremiah Show welcomes special guest Mike Rogers. And be sure to tune in at 12 p.m. for that show. Right when we went to break, we had dropped a couple of questions for Mike, and we're going to come back to those questions. We'll go with question number one, Mike. In the NFL's efforts to keep the game safe, clean, and efficient, what tweaks, rule changes, or new rules can we expect to see in the 2022 season?
You know, Big Lou, that's a good question. I mean, they met already. The competition committee did meet already, and they've talked about more protection to the head area of the quarterback. I'm not so sure how much more we can protect the quarterback, though. I mean, it's, you know, they've made so many changes since 1994 to protect the quote unquote franchise that they are concerned, though, about some inconsistency when it comes to roughing the passer and not calling some of those where there's contact of the head or neck area. So I think you'll see an emphasis on that. And then the other thing is more of an emphasis on the knees. I mean, they actually banned any blocks below the waist outside what's called the tight end box last year because of the amount of injuries, knee injuries that they were getting on low blocks. So that will be a continued point of emphasis for them. The other thing is too, they've measured now on the riskiest play, the one that creates the most injuries now, are punt plays. So they're going to look at trying to make the punt play simpler. Not sure how they're going to do it, but that's one thing that I've talked to them about, and their concern, again, the collisions on the punt returns and the blindside blocks and those type of things. But they consider right now the punt return the most dangerous play in the game.
Wow, interesting. Well, definitely glad to see that or hear that, and definitely are looking forward to those new changes coming in. And, let me say this for our listeners, be patient with the new rule changes. Everybody will be adjusting, obviously the players, the coaches, the referees, and that means we need to adjust as well as spectators. So be patient, but I will say the NFL did an amazing job this year. They absolutely got it right. I believe the entire playoff run going into the Super Bowl, we had every team that was supposed to be there, which is why it was as exciting as it was this year. Moving on, next question for you. Ed Hockley or Mike Carey? Who wins in an arm wrestling match?
I'm going to go with Mike Carey. I'm going to go with Mike Carey. Yeah, and why? Because Mike Carey's smarter than Ed Hockley. I think he'll beat Hockley to the punch. He'll react quicker and he'll get that quick push in right before Ed's really ready to go. So I think it's Mike Carey over Ed Hockley on an out-think-em TKO.
Wow. Like it. You heard it first here, ladies and gentlemen, on the Sports Lounge on AM 1290 KZSB. Ed Hockley, Mike Carey. Let's see if we can put that together for a charity event. That would be absolutely amazing. Along with that particular charity event, I think this would be a huge draw as well to be another portion of that charity event. So, Mike, that question to you would be, in their prime, in the 40-yard dash, who do you take, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning?
Well, I wanted to take me at age 72.
Fair enough.
But I think I'm going to go with Brady. I'm going to go with Brady. Yeah, and I got to think through that since you gave me the opportunity. I think Brady wins because what he does is he gets Nike Airs. He deflates the air out of the and I think with the less air, I think he's just a half a step quicker, and he wins by a half a foot with deflated Nike Air football shoes. He wins.
That is hilarious. I can neither confirm nor deny whether he played better or worse with the balls deflated, but I do recall a piece coming out where I believe it was the Indianapolis game where they complained in the first half. They were saying the balls were deflated. So they took all the balls away from Tom Brady. They gave him back a bunch of balls that were inflated over the regulation size, or at least right to the point. And to add insult to injury to those who complained, he went out and had a better second half than the first half.
He did. So, that became the big story, which is never really proven true. And it turns out that atmospheric conditions do have an effect on the pressure in the footballs. And so I don't think we'll ever find out. Something was fishy. That's all I know. Something was fishy about that. But whatever it was, it certainly didn't have an effect on his performance.
Good deal. Say, hey, if nobody's in the forest and the tree falls, does it make a sound?
There you go. There you go.
Hey, Mike, let our listeners know, everybody that's listening, following, how can people find you and stay updated with you? What do you have going on? How can we keep up and keep in with your work? Let us know what you have going on.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Pereira, or on Instagram at Mike Pereira 77, or you can go on. We have a foundation I do called Battlefields to Ball Fields, and that we give scholarships to veterans to become sports officials in their communities. So you can follow me there on battlefields2ballfields.org. And find out about that website and also follow me. So I enjoy myself most of the time on Twitter. And I will say one thing: if you say you're a big Lou follower, I will answer if you tweet me.
You heard it right there, everyone. That's Big Mike Pereira. NFL analyst, official, Fox Sports analyst, everything NFL, head official, USFL, VP of officiating for the NFL. Mike, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us in the lounge today. I am your host, Big Lou, right here on AM 1290 KZSB and 96.9 FM. You've been listening to the Sports Lounge. We'll see you next week.